my dad, probably in his early 20s, broke his neck in the military where he
Wow.
was a paraplegic, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And mind you, this was probably in the 50s when he broke his neck C2 through C4, and they said he was never going to walk again, right? So at
Yeah.
that time, this is 30 years prior to me being born, but at that time, my dad told the doctor that, said he was going to never walk again, that he was a liar, and he was.
Yeah.
So it took him maybe a year before he could start getting feeling back into his toes and stuff like that, and was able to get the use of his hands again and be able to get out the medical bed. But that story, hearing that about my dad at a very young age was very inspirational to myself, right? It taught me the power of, mindset, essentially.
So we're excited today. We have Cat with Cat Fitness here with us on our live stream today. We're going to really get into his journey because his journey is inspirational to all. So a little bit about Cat. He's an entrepreneur. He's a motivational speaker. But most important, he is someone that truly is the epitome of changing, right? And you will talk about some of the things that he changed during his journey so that he can move forward in the right way. It's conquering your fears, changing your attitude and your perception, and then anything is possible. He has done that very well. So, Kat, welcome to the show.
Welcome, welcome,
Man,
welcome.
thank y'all for having me.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you, but we really want to start from the beginning, right? We want people to know who you are. So tell us about those young years, the young Cat, the Cat that ran in the park, the Cat that was a teenager. Tell us about that Cat, where you grew up at, your upbringing, how did you become to be the person you are today?
Man, well, I was born in Berkeley, California, in the Bay Area. I grew up all throughout the Bay Area. We lived in Oakland, Berkeley, Richmond, San Pablo, Pinole. So I've lived all throughout the Bay Area growing up. And I would say initially my family was like middle to lower class. Growing up, my mom, she's actually from South America. So she came here right before I was born in her late 20s. So she was getting like adapted to the culture. My dad was born and raised in Berkeley, California. And growing up was a good time, but an interesting time. Growing up, typical family trying to make it in the United States. Like my dad was ex-military. So, he had a very like strict way of like how he wanted things done in the household. My mom, as I was growing up, she was figuring out how to make it in this new country, this new world that she was living in.
Yeah.
And we were getting by, you know what I'm saying? To the point where, as a kid, reflecting back at those times, you don't really realize the struggles you may have been going through. Like, I remember always having like these big blocks of cheese and at the house, right? And we make these like grilled cheese sandwiches, and you don't realize that you're getting that because you're on like assistance from the government to get these big blocks of cheese. Or you're getting the powdered milk at that time. I'm kind of dating myself now when they was giving away those kind of things. But, as a kid, it was being a kid. You don't realize that, you're on the lower side of, poverty kind of lifestyle at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kat grew up in, lower middle class, had two parents in the house, right, helping to guide you. How did that set the foundation for who you are today? What are some of those foundational blocks that is set for you earlier on in your life?
Oh, man. I would attribute both my parents for instilling a lot of what I have in me today. Like, for instance, like I was saying, my dad was in the military, right? So my dad, probably in his early 20s, broke his neck in the military, where he
Wow.
was a paraplegic, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And mind you, this was probably in the 50s when he broke his neck C2 through C4, and they said he was never going to walk again, right? So at that time, this is 30 years prior to me being born, but at that time, my dad told the doctor that, said he was going to never walk again, that he was a liar, and he was.
Yeah.
So it took him maybe a year before he could start getting feeling back into his toes and stuff like that, and was able to get the use of his hands again and be able to get out the medical bed. But that story, hearing that about my dad at a very young age was very inspirational to myself, right? It taught me the power of mindset, essentially. Because if he allowed that doctor to tell him that he was never going to walk again, and he accepted that truth, that, this is the end all be all of my life, that I'm going to be in this bed for the rest of my life,
Yeah.
then, we wouldn't be here having this story today.
Yeah.
So, my dad was a huge part in, you can do whatever you set your mind to, and being a living example of that. And then also seeing my mom come from a different country and kind of like just getting it out the mud, She didn't know nobody. She didn't speak the language here, but she knew she wanted a better life for her and her family, right? And she was willing to put in the work and do whatever it took to manifest that lifestyle that she wanted for herself and her family. And she did it, She was able to get a government job and not even speak the language at the time.
Wow.
So, but she really set her mind to, like, I'm going to pass this test. I'm going to study as hard as I can. And, she aced it to get into the Postal Service. So it was one of those things that, hearing those stories, being around my parents as they were, living their lives and, doing the best they could, really feeling those foundational things inside of me as I grew as a kid.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, basically, you had enough to get by. And more importantly, it sounds like you were given some of the best things that someone can get, right? It's some great traits, a lot of support, discipline, the value of hard work and never giving up, right? And believing in yourself. And so as a young person, you're getting those core values. Then you hit high school. Tell us a little about that.
Yeah.
Oh, man. When I got into high school, it was funny because my passion at that time was playing football, right? And I took all those things that I got from my parents as growing up, working hard, having a great mindset, great outlook, and really took off with my football career all the way up until my senior year when I actually got hurt. It was 3 or 4 games into my senior season, I pulled my hamstring, right? At that time, I was ranked like 4th in the rankings for running backs in the Bay Area. And, it was one of those things where I was like, man, I can either, continue to pursue my dream or I can just give up on my dream. And, I had to sit out maybe like 1 or 2 games my senior season due to my hamstring. But then, with the sports medical doctor that I was dealing with at that time, I just put an ace bandage over my leg and grinded it out for the rest of the season, and made it the best I could. And, a lot of people look at those kind of things as like, dang, I had a scholarship online at that time that I wasn't able to follow through and get my scholarship, but that didn't discourage me from like continuing to pursue my dream. Playing ball at that time was like one of the biggest things I wanted to do. And even if I had to go a different route to get to that goal, I was willing to, put in the work and go that route.